Let's welcome Theresa Payton, CEO and President of Fortalice Solutions, LLC. Theresa will talk about a behind-the-scenes discussion looking into the minds of cyber operatives that conduct elite misinformation campaigns. Theresa, the stage is yours.
Hi, I'm Theresa Payton, and I wish I could be with you in person, but this is the next best thing, being together virtually. And one day I will get to meet you in person. But for now, let's talk a little bit about these misinformation and manipulation campaigns that are impacting everyone's lives around the globe. As a matter of fact, I spent the last couple of years sort of as a side project studying the cyber operatives behind these misinformation and manipulation campaigns. And I write about them in my book, Mainpulated. Now, many people may think Mainpulated is either a backward-looking view on what happened in the United States in 2016, or maybe that it's solely focused on the United States or the elections coming up in 2020. It's so much more than that. I wish this was just a point in time. I wish we were talking about something that happened, but it's something that's happening right now, and it impacts each and every one of you. What you think, what you believe. Also, any industry that you work for is also at risk of these misinformation manipulation campaigns. So come along with me. I'm going to show you a masterclass in how to spot and stop and what we need to do globally to come together to make sure that these campaigns do not destroy democracy and our global social discourse. So what is the point of a manipulation campaign? Well, for starters, it's not just about distorting the truth. It's a war against our minds, making us not know who or what to believe. And behind the cyber operatives' motive is there's a lot of different things that may be motivating them initially to do their campaigns, but make no mistake, they all have one thing in common, and that is creating a situation where you don't know what to believe. And if you don't know what to believe, that leaves you open to believing anything the manipulators want to put in front of you. What's interesting to me is that in 2016, this was such a huge problem that the Oxford Dictionary actually added the word of the year that year, and they called the word of the year post-truth, which is actually two words when you think about it. And then in 2017, the word of the year for Collins English Dictionary was fake news. So here it is now part of our everyday vernacular. Let's talk about Generation Z. I have so much hope for the future when I look at this generation coming up. They're smart, they think about global issues, despite what people think, they're actually well-learned and well-read. Yes, do they get a lot of their news information from their friends and family on social media? They do, but they look at lots of different points of view and they tend to be a lot more open-minded. I had the honor of actually teaching several master classes to high school students, some of which were at the top of their class in history and English. So you can imagine the best and the brightest that we have. As part of that master class, I was able to, within 15 minutes, like this master class, teach them the difference between misinformation and manipulation campaigns, amplification campaigns of the truth, and how to spot and stop themselves from being manipulated. But there was one part of the test they got wrong every time, no matter what I tried to do in every class. Can you guess what it is? Internet memes. Internet memes are seen as personal, authentic, organic, and therefore must be accurate, or at least that person's version of the truth. And the more sort of rudimentary the meme looks, or the more sort of comical, especially if the meme is a short looping video on a platform like TikTok, the more believable it is. You know, Warren Buffett says that cyber warfare is the greatest threat to mankind, even more so than nuclear weapons. And he may be onto something there. The other thing that I learned, which was interesting, because when I was studying the manipulators on behalf of companies and industries, one of the things that I found fascinating was Why do some things go viral? Why do some things, even though they're disproven, continue to percolate back up on the internet and continue to be shared? And the research shows that, sort of from a mind and heart perspective, a story about any topic, not just politics, reaches 1,500 people 6 times faster than does legitimate news. So part of this is our human nature. I've got a quick history lesson here. I don't want to spend too much time here because we have so little time, but I just want to show you this graphic to show that manipulation campaigns and propaganda is not something new. It wasn't created by social media and big tech. It wasn't created as a modern day thing. It actually is deeply rooted in history. Essentially, ever since there were 2 human beings walking the earth, we have had misinformation campaigns and manipulation campaigns. The challenge we have today in combating these is that, unlike the past, which required a grounds game, so you had to have people installed in place in different places to make things work, now you can operate through artificial intelligence, chatbots, fake personas, fake communities, fake organizations, and fake ads. You can now, at speed and scale, put out these campaigns and see whether or not they're working, tweak them, and if you get discovered, you can just create a whole new set of fake personas the next day. Obviously, one of the things that is very important to these cyber operatives is how they trick their victims. And during this period of the pandemic, we're seeing these manipulation campaigns and misinformation campaigns actually not just as something to impact politics and social discourse, but as a way to get into organizations to commit wire transfer fraud, install ransomware, or steal data. And the way they're doing that in the pandemic is misinformation campaigns around, you're going to run out of supplies such as hand sanitizer or masks, telling people there's a vaccination coming or not coming, or the dangers of a vaccine or the dangers of not being vaccinated. And they're getting people who are otherwise savvy, who wouldn't typically click on a link or open an attachment, to take the bait. The other thing you need to know about this is the reason why they keep doing it. It's not just because it's successful. They also make a lot of money. So sensationalistic headlines, sensationalistic videos and photographs posted on social media or purchased as ad space on legitimate news organizations so that it looks like it's just blending in with everything else. Those clickbait ads actually fund the cyber operatives and the entire organization. My concern is that manipulation campaigns have already been used to try to destroy an industry. In our case in America, one of the things that I found and other security researchers found was that as it relates to America's energy independence, we are focused on an all of the above strategy, including fracking. There are scientific discoveries where fracking can be dangerous to the environment. And I'm not here to debate the benefits or the downsides of fracking. What I want to tell you is that industry was under attack, not just by Americans and Canadians worried about the environment, but also Russian cyber operatives created fake personas masquerading as Canadians and Americans, creating an amplification campaign of the truth and a misinformation campaign on all things that would relate to energy independence for America. So the Canadian pipeline, whether or not Trump and Trudeau get along, fracking in America, environmental issues. And you might say to yourself, why would they care about America's energy independence? America's energy independence drove global fuel prices down. The way Putin funds his economic regime and ambitions for Russia is through, one of the ways he does that is through energy. If energy prices are down for the globe, us having energy independence is bad for his economic ambitions. I already talked to you a little bit about what COVID-19 is doing to organizations everywhere. I have to tell you, as employers necessarily had to send some or all of their workforce home, our phones began ringing off the hook because we do incident response. And many of the entry points that we found was related to COVID-19 and all things COVID-19 and tricking these employees in their emotional state into clicking on links that they normally would not click on. The other thing that I've seen that I want to warn you about is that deepfakes and AI are now available at scale and at speed and a cost that makes it very easy to commit wire transfer fraud. I was speaking to the European Council of Banks last year, and one of the cases that I was able to spend some time looking into while I was over there and having these conversations was a case where a CEO sent an email to the CFO, only it wasn't the CEO, authorizing a wire transfer. As their check and balance works in that particular company, the CEO is also to call the CFO and give a voice authorization in addition to that email. He did so, only it wasn't the CEO. The voice print was the CEO. They had used all recordings of the CEO, whether it was talking to the news, addressing the board, addressing shareholders, anything they could find. And the cyber criminals actually used artificial intelligence algorithms and deepfake audio editing technology to create a wire transfer that was his voice, his recording. And in the process, they lost over 250,000 sterling. Very challenging times, very hard to combat against. So what is a manipulation campaign? It can be the truth amplified, as I mentioned before, truth mixed with disinformation or complete disinformation. Who is behind them? Unscrupulous competitors in business, unscrupulous political operatives, nation states, and cyber criminals. How do they do it? I gave you a lot of different techniques of how they do it, but one of their favorite platforms to distribute is social media. Deepfake documents, videos, photos, and chatbots posing as real people. I talked to you a little bit about memes. So one of the things to be looking for is sensationalistic headlines such as never revealed before, not being reported on traditional news media and typical sources, looking at sort of the different types of platforms that it's distributed on. Okay, so what can you do about it? First of all, as my mother says, read the book because it's the best book she's read in 2020. And you should listen to my mom. I certainly do. The other tip that you can do is go to your trusted vetted news organizations. And I always say have 3 at the ready. Have something local, have something national across the country, and then have an international news source. And chances are, if you don't see it across all 3, you might be the victim of a manipulation campaign. Think about going to organizations who are dedicated to actually doing fact checking, such as factcheck.org or Snopes.com. And lastly, this is really important because big tech and social media can't do this on their own. Report it to the social media platforms. We're all in this together, and I really appreciate my time with you. I'm looking forward to being with you together in person. Thank you so much for having me on the agenda. And we're all part of the good guys and good gals group. So please feel free to reach out to me anytime. There's my contact information. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much.